Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? Well, the answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. When I started using Anchor to do my podcast, it was so extremely easy that I haven't even bothered to look for another app to use. I love this app. It's the only one I deal with, the only one I even recommend, period. I recommend you get on there ASAP. If you want to start a podcast, this is definitely the place to go. It's easy. You can drive around and record. You can sit in your basement and record. You can do it anywhere. It's fantastic. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start, anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Adam Rich from the Really Rich Podcast. And today I wanted to get into something that's I feel is very important, but I think it's very underrated as far as what people shoot for on a regular basis when it comes to their daily lives. I think that adaptability and versatility is extraordinarily underrated in the sense that a lot of us will plan our lives or plan what we're going to do today or this week or in our careers at our job. We plan on what we're going to do when we're married, how we're going to raise our kids. We try to plan this, and this. And that's fine. You should always plan ahead. You should always think about what may happen and all that stuff. However, I think it's extremely critical for everyone to basically try as hard as possible to be versatile, to be be able to adapt to your environment. I think that is far more critical than planning and having a good plan and trying to stick to the plan and trying to, I guess, think ahead about every single thing that you're going to do or try to stick to implementing certain things at certain times. I think the ability to be able to adapt to change is incredibly more important than any of that. And let me explain why. Because if you get into a situation where you plan ahead and you think and you plan every step out, you go, okay, when I get to this point, I'm going to do this. And when I get to that point, I'm going to do this. And I get to this point, I'm going to do that. If one thing happens to alter that plan, especially early on, the earlier on that it happens, the more different your trajectory. I can't even fucking talk. The more different your trajectory will look. And like if you say to yourself, okay, when we're taking a trip, when we arrive in Mexico, we're going to get out of the airport and we're going to take a cab and we're going to go to this place first. And then after that place, we're going to go to this place. And then after that place, we're going to go to this place. Say you do all that, but then all of a sudden you arrive in the airport in Mexico and you find a cab and you go to the first place that you were planning on going and that place is shut down. It doesn't even exist anymore. And this may sound like a very small problem, which it may be. But this is the point, is that if that one place is closed and you say you have an itinerary, like at this time I need to go and be at this place, and at this place I can spend this amount of time looking at this, and then after that I can go and move on to go do this. If one of those things get altered, if one of those plans change, it can throw off your whole trip. And if you're not prepared for that, now that may be a good way. I mean, say something dramatic happens, say something horrible happens. You get off the airport, or you get off the plane, you go through the airport, you get into a cab, and then that cab drives you to a terrible neighborhood and then robs you and steals all your shit and then drops you off. Just leaves you out in the middle of nowhere. Now this is dark, I understand that, but I'm trying to make the point. If that plan changes, then what do you do? I mean, that throws off all of your game plan. Now, why I think being versatile and adaptable, or having adaptability in your life is critical, or why you should practice it, or why you should focus on that, or try to be good at that, planning all possible avenues, is because if that shit happens, you need to know how to respond. And just panicking or worrying is not going to solve anything. It's not going to fix any of your problems. So you need to have a game plan. You need to prepare yourself mentally for all possible outcomes. Being able to adapt to what's around you, in my opinion, is better than planning itself. Being able to adapt to the change, to the random change. If you have a job and you're used to the same routine, you get up every morning, you get ready for work, you drive yourself to work, you work your 8-9 hours or whatever it is, and then you go home. What if all of a sudden tomorrow that place goes out of business and you have no other job? And you didn't plan ahead. You didn't have any money saved. You just live paycheck to paycheck. You just figured, if I just keep doing the same things are going to keep happening. But we don't know that that's always going to be the case. What if all of a sudden the country ends up going into a war? And now all of a sudden it's World War III. Nukes are going off everywhere. Every fucking country in the planet is under attack and nowhere's safe. Let's just say, let's be honest, that's probably not likely to happen. It hasn't happened to that extreme yet. But what if it did? What would your game plan be then? You still going to go to work 8 to 5 every day? Take your hour lunch? Come home, fold clothes, maybe go to the kids' soccer game? Are you going to do all that? No, your whole fucking life would be uprooted. Your whole life would be different. Everything would change. And I feel it's incredibly important to not just plan for stuff like that, because let's be honest, you can't plan for everything. You can't plan for every possible outcome of every single thing. It's not Doctor Strange in the movie fucking Avengers Infinity War here. You're not getting 14 million different possible scenarios and you get to see how all of them shake out. It ain't like that. So the point is being able to take what's thrown in front of you and be able to adapt to that and change and go with the flow and still keep it moving in a positive direction, still be productive, still carry out what you're trying to carry out, still survive. It's incredibly more important. I remember 14, 15 years ago, I'm working at the plastics company, and I remember asking this guy that had moved up dramatically very quickly. And I asked him, because I was brand new there basically. And I said, what do you think is the most important thing? What should I get good at? I asked him this, and I'm a 21-year-old kid at the time. I asked him, I said, what do you think would benefit me the most to help me be able to move up quicker? What job should I get good at? And he said, if I were you, I would focus 100% on being versatile. And I'll never forget that. Now, this was coming from a guy that, has basically done nothing but fuck me over the rest of my career. However, that advice was absolutely sound. It was so true and so incredible to think about in life. It wasn't just about where I was working. It wasn't just about the company or that position or that job title or anything like that. It's not about that at all. In life, being able to be versatile is an incredible talent. It's an incredible power because you don't know what is going to happen. Listen, when I remember this, when I was 18 years old, 17, 18 years old, something like that, I remember my dad telling me about basically about if I'm going to have sex, make sure you wear a condom. He's like, make sure you wear a condom, wear 2 of them, and tie it in a knot. And he wasn't talking about the condom. He was talking about my dick. He was talking about tie your dick in a knot because he said having a kid at 17, luckily it wasn't me he was talking about, but he said having a kid at 17 was one of the biggest mistakes of his life. And it wasn't that the kid was the mistake. It was that he was too young to be a responsible adult to raise a kid. And it was financially horrible for him. It was mature in his maturity wise. It was horrible for him because he wasn't old and, he wasn't an adult enough yet. I mean, he barely had graduated high school at this point. And so he was thrust into having a full-time job at GM at the age of 18. At 18 years old, he applied to get a job at GM, And back then it was super easy to get into GM. So he got his job at GM and he ended up working there for almost 40 years. So it ended, that part of it, the whole work part of it ended up working out, but it totally shifted his whole game plan, It totally changed everything he was trying to do. And I think that this is important because he didn't just cry about it. He didn't just say, oh, the poor me, this is horrible. What am I going to do? I'm sure he probably had all those thoughts initially at first, but instead of sulking and thinking about how he fucked up or how his life might be ruined or anything like that, he just put his nose down and just went to fucking work, and he did the best he could. And that's the attitude my dad's always had. That's where I get that from. Life doesn't give a fuck how you feel. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about how rough of a time you're having. It doesn't care about how bad you might have had it growing up or how your upbringing was worse than this person's upbringing. It doesn't care about none of that. You have to adapt. Life's not going to stop and just throw you money and be like, well, you had a bad shake. You had a bad hand. Here, we're going to hook you up and just give you everything you want. No, nobody's running along to do that for you. So when life all of a sudden throws you a shitstorm, you can't just sit back and be like, well, where's, this needs to pay off for me somehow. No, if you want it to pay off for you, you have to figure out what kind of a storm you're in and how to navigate it, how to get the fuck out of there. You got to plan quick. And this is what I'm saying is you can't have a plan for everything. My dad didn't plan to knock up a girl at 16, 17 years old, have a child by the time he graduates, and then have his whole entire life uprooted and changed. You don't plan for shit like that. But you can adapt. And that's quickly what he had to learn to do. He still had to work his ass off. He still had to go into work, anywhere between 8 to 12 hours a day every single day for the next 30-something years. Depending on the day or whatever. So the point is, when life throws you a curveball, you don't swing at it like it's a 99-mile-an-hour fastball coming straight down the center of the plate. You have to adapt. You have to adjust. You have to maybe slow down your swing a bit, aim for the corners. You don't, and I'm sorry if you don't know baseball, you're probably lost right now. The point is, when life throws you something you're not expecting, you need to adjust to that. You need to adapt to that. And I think crying and complaining and hoping that either the government comes and saves you or your parents come and save you or your boss comes and saves you or your spouse comes and saves you, instead of whining about that and worrying or hoping that somebody comes to your aid, figure out how can you fix the problem, because there's a good chance nobody's going to come and save you. Now, they might. Somebody might come along. Somebody may see your situation and go out of their way to desperately try to help you out. That is a possibility. Now, you know how often that happens? You're probably more likely to get hit by lightning. Twice, maybe. It's not coming. That secret handout is not coming your way. If you think life was bad when you were growing up and you got a bad hand, don't think that all of a sudden once you become an adult it's going to be any better. It's probably not going to be as easy. I remember being in high school and I hated fucking high school. I hated going to class and learning about shit that I didn't care about and then having to do homework and tests and studying for shit I didn't like. I loved going there for friends and hanging out. I loved being in class and goofing off and talking and bullshitting. That was my favorite. I got notes sent home from class all the time. My dad ended up beating me with a belt one. Not bad. Like, I'm not calling child services on him, but I'm just saying that he ended up beating me because he told me, if you get another note sent home, and your mom calls me up pissed off about it, I'm going to beat you with the belt. And the very next day I got a note sent home. And it wasn't because I didn't think he was serious. It was because I was stupid. And I fucked up. I was like, I can get away with it one more time. And I didn't. Spoiler alert, I didn't get away with shit. Now, here's why that's important. Because when I got, after I got that note sent home and my dad even called me. He called me at night because my dad worked afternoons. He called at night and he said, your mom told me you got another note sent home. And I said, yeah, I did. And he said, so do you want your beating tonight when I get home from work, or do you want it in the morning before you go to school? And he said it that calm, right? And I said, I don't know. He's like, I'll tell you what, if you're up when I get home, we'll do it tonight. And if not, I'll do it in the morning before you go to school. And I kept thinking to myself, man, I definitely don't want it right before I go to school, because then I'll be crying. I'll be a fucking mess. I'm going to go to school. Everyone's going to know. I'm going to look like people will know, is what I basically thought. I was like, people will know I got my ass beat by my dad or something, or I've been crying. So I was like, fuck it. I'd rather get it out of the way than go to bed, then wake up, start on a fresh, clean slate, But it changed everything, because that night he gets home around 3 a.m. I was up. And he was even shocked that I was awake. He was like, what are you still doing up? I was like, I don't want to wait until the morning. I'd rather get it out of the way now. And he was like, okay, well, let's go downstairs. And as we're walking downstairs, I hear him getting the belt ready. And I was like, fuck, this is going to happen. And so we get downstairs. I turn around, I start bawling already. He didn't even hit me yet. And I started crying my ass off because, one, I knew it was coming. Two, I knew that, I had really disappointed him if I got my dad to that point. And obviously my mom was pissed. But I was going through that stage where it's like, you don't think your mom can really, I don't want to say she couldn't hurt me. I mean, she could always, even if physically she couldn't hurt me, then I knew she could get my dad on me. It's just that I had so much fun in school talking and screwing off and making other people laugh that I didn't care if the note was a possibility. Plus, I thought I was slick, dude. You know what I mean? I thought I was like, oh, I'll get away with this. I'm fine. I'll just be more secretive. I'll be better. I thought I could adapt to the situation. Turns out the only situation I adapted to was after my dad beat my ass with a belt. I adapted to not get any more notes sent home. So I was a little more. It very much taught me quickly how to adapt to talking in class, because I still did it for the rest of my life. Every class I had ever had, I'd still talked in it. It's just I got smarter about how I did it. I would wait till the teachers were turned around. If they were even remotely looking in my direction, I wasn't moving, I wasn't saying shit. And it taught me a very valuable lesson, which I hold true to this day, is that if you're in class or in a business meeting or wherever, and you're talking, if somebody looks at you and somebody else are carrying on a conversation, a secret little conversation, as soon as anybody is aware of the conversation, just shut your mouth and look still and do not laugh. The other person talking will still probably be trying to get your attention to make you laugh or trying to talk to you, but they're the ones that's going to get caught, and you'll look totally not innocent, but you'll look like, hey man, I don't want no part of this. He's the one talking. She's the one talking. It ain't me. I'm trying to mind my business and watch. It's almost like in the movie Billy Madison, where he's trying to hit on that girl. He's trying to talk to that girl, and she's like, don't talk to me, you loser. And then he's like, no, I will not make out with you. And he tries to embarrass the girl in front of the whole fucking class. And he's like, you got chlorophyll man up here talking about God knows what, and all you want to do is make out with me. I'm here to learn, people. I feel like that when I get into those scenarios now, because it's almost a snitchy move, but you're not telling on anyone. You're just shutting your mouth and you're just looking straight ahead like you should be in an important class or business meeting when you're there to learn. Or you're there to listen. But bottom line is, I was able to adapt. I learned the hard way, of course. I learned what needed to be done in order for me to be better at doing what I wanted to do. And this is extremely important in life. If you want to do what you want to do, then you need to be good at it. You need to find a way to adapt when things change in your field. If you have your life planned ahead of you and you have the job of your dreams, and all of a sudden that job is stripped away from you, or you have your relationship planned ahead and then all of a sudden that relationship is stripped from you, or that family or them friends, you have to learn how to adapt. And that is infinitely more critical to your survival or your happiness or your ability to succeed. It's so much more tied in than having a good plan and hoping everything falls into place. If you watch sports, especially football, quarterbacks will tell you, they learn all these mechanics on how to throw the ball. They'll have certain arm slots and arm angles at which scientifically you should try to hold true when you're throwing the ball. You should plant your feet. You should have your arm cocked at this angle and aimed in this direction, and it gives you more power and more accuracy and all this shit, right? And they'll tell you, if you do these things and you master this, you'll be much more accurate. And I'll never forget what Matthew Stafford of the Detroit Lions once said in an interview. They were kind of shitting on him because he would throw some sidearm and he would throw all kinds of different weird arm slots, and he would just do anything he could to get the ball where it needed to be. And they asked him about his arm slots, and they said, don't you have kind of weird arm angles and stuff. Don't you, do you think like somebody, a quarterback coach or something, should work with you on that? And he said, no, I throw however, I just try to throw any way I can. And at first it sounded like a weird answer, but then he kind of went in more depth and he explained. He said, look, when you're playing football, so many things happen on the football field to break down, for a play to break down, where you have to run or scramble, or you can't always throw on your back foot. You can't always throw at this arm slot. You can't always, so maybe you got to throw, if you're going to throw at this arm slot, maybe a defender raises his hand and he'll bat the ball away. In other words, you have to be versatile. You have to adapt to what's going on around you and then change your angle of throwing or how you're throwing from there on out. And he said he always worked on throwing from all different kinds of arm slots because he knew that when you get into the pros, you're never going to have a perfect play. It's not going to happen. You're not going to throw at a perfect arm slot every time. You're not going to throw with your feet planted at a certain spot every time. You're not going to have perfect accuracy. Sometimes you're going to throw on the run. Sometimes you're going to throw while you're getting hit. Sometimes you got to throw while you can't see. And he knew all that, so he practiced all these different things. It's not that he planned for failure of the play. He just said, hey, I'm going to plan that if something breaks down, I need to be versatile. I need to work on my versatility. I need to be able to throw on the run. I need to be able to throw far. I need to be able to throw short. I need to be able to throw sidearm. I need to be able to do whatever it needs to be done to succeed. And that's a perfect mentality. That's a perfect mindset to have in everything you do, in life in general. It's not when you're driving to work and you leave your house, it's going to take you 15 minutes to get to work and you leave 16 minutes early. You've allowed for 1 minute of alteration in your route, which means maybe you got to go over train tracks. Maybe there's a train this time. Maybe one of the lights is out, some power is out in the area, and now you got cars backed up in a line because the light's out and there's only a stop sign. So people have to kind of figure that shit out on their own, and there's no traffic cop. Sometimes maybe you run out of gas. Maybe your car isn't starting. Maybe it's too cold in your battery. It won't, the car won't turn over. There's so many different things that can happen. So my point is, it's not that you need to have every single plan for every single thing that can happen. It's that you need to learn to be versatile. And I don't know of a way to just say be versatile and have people just do it. I guess it's just, I've always dealt better in pressure situations. I've always dealt better when you don't have as much time to think, because I'll overthink shit. I'll just think, well, maybe what if I try this? Well, no, that might not work. Maybe I should try that. And by the next thing you know, the moment's over. And you didn't move at all. You didn't make an adjustment. You didn't do anything. So usually for me, I just try to shut that shit down and just rely on gut. And listen, it could be wrong. You could make mistakes. But that's how you learn. If you put yourself through enough pressure situations, you'll be used to them when they happen. And so it doesn't make you go into panic mode or worry mode. I guess the best thing I can say to plan or to practice this kind of thing and put it into your life is not just, if you can, I guess, put yourself in pressure situations, but a lot of people don't like handling that. So I understand. I would never say just go make yourself be in high pressure situations. Maybe it's not even good for your health mentally to put yourself in those situations. But I guess what I'm saying is whenever a high pressure situation arises or there's sudden change and you don't know how to handle it, the first move is never to panic. It's never to worry, because worrying, panicking, overthinking, none of that helps progress you or to help you succeed. Panicking and worrying don't do anything for you ever. They just clutter your mind with random clustery thoughts where you just can't function. You can't operate. And then you kind of freeze up or you fold up because you don't know how to respond. So all I can say really that I think will help is to take pride in your ability to adapt when shit hits the fan. You know, own it, be confident in it, and know that worrying is never going to help you. So when something does hit the fan, don't worry or panic, think instead. Stop, take a second, take a breath, and think, what can I do? What's going to help? You know, running around in mass panic is never going to be the right answer. It's not going to help anything. It's just going to make you confused, and you're not going to be thinking about anything. You're just going to be clustered up in your head, and you're just going to be frantic and not know what's going on, and it's not going to help you do anything right. It's just going to keep you confused longer. So I guess the best thing is just clear your mind. Try to, I mean, obviously in panicky situations, it's hard to just automatically clear your mind, but what I'm saying is take pride, or pride's the wrong word, but be confident that you're the one that people can rely on when things go wrong. You know, try to be the one that can figure out the solution when things happen, you know, and try to get good at that. Try to be good. And I'm not saying to ask for high stress situations, but whenever something changes on you, don't freak out, don't get negative, don't get angry, bitter, confused, panicky, worrying or anything. Don't do those things. Whenever the slightest little thing happens, like maybe you're 5 minutes late to work, don't freak out and think, oh man, what kind of bullshit, what kind of lie can I tell? Just take a breath, calm down, and think, what can I do better next time? This time's already over. It's already fucked. I'm probably going to get yelled at, or maybe my boss is going to discipline me. Maybe my boss isn't going to be happy about this. But instead, understand that that's probably what's coming. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's better news. You know, and in which case, it's even better for you. But instead, think about, oh, great, I'm late today. I'm probably going to get my ass chewed. My boss isn't going to be happy about this. Instead of making up a bunch of bullshit lies, what can I do better tomorrow? Maybe I leave 5 minutes earlier tomorrow. Maybe I leave 10 minutes earlier tomorrow. Maybe it's better to get to work early and just chill in your car or play on your phone for a few minutes. Let's be honest, we all play on our phones. I don't think anybody listening to this doesn't play on their phone, at least to some degree. It might not be video games. It might be looking at YouTube. It might be looking at Facebook. It might be posting something on your social media. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you're going to do on your phone, just maybe you should get to work a hair earlier and then just do that on your phone. Look up a YouTube video that's 2 minutes if you only have 2 minutes, or, send an email, look at Facebook, send a text that you were waiting on sending. There's 1,000 things you can do. Read some shit, watch a video. It's just, there's ways around it. But my point is, when you're going into a situation where you know it's going to be kind of fucked, or something changes, like maybe you're driving to work and you left early and all of a sudden there's a pile up there's an accident and a pile up, maybe call your boss. If you know it's going to happen, just say, look, I'll take a video with my phone. If you don't believe me, there's a pile up. I'm sorry, I'm going to be late. Even if they discipline you and say, well, you should have left earlier, then tomorrow, leave earlier. Leave even earlier than that. And I know a lot of you, maybe you think like I do and you think, I shouldn't have to. Well, yeah, you shouldn't have to, but you do. There's a lot of things we shouldn't have to do in life, but we just do. And these are the ways, instead of getting mad and yelling at somebody else or making it somebody else's problem or trying to come up with excuses all the time, figure out a way to adapt. Like, shit, if I'm late one more time, my boss is going to fire me. Maybe you ought to leave your house a half hour earlier then. Get there 25 fucking minutes earlier if you have to. At least until you're not in the hot water anymore. So, but freaking out, panicking, lying, making up shit, getting confused, being frantic, that's never the answer. Just learn to adapt to situations. Some shit's going to happen sometimes in life that you just can't avoid. But that's where it's more important to adapt and be versatile. Shit's going to happen out of nowhere. I remember I had a vehicle that I fucking loved. I had this truck that I bought and I loved it. And that bitch got totaled. Totally against my will. It was my fault. I mean, the accident was my fault because I was young and stupid and not paying attention. But the car was totaled. It wasn't coming back. So I had to adapt. Not only did I, to this day, I have changed the way that I drive, like my thoughts when just to go over it real quick, I came to a light. I thought it was a 4-way stop. It ended up only being a 2-way stop for me. The other 2 was flashing yellow. It wasn't flashing red. I thought it was a 4-way stop. One car was coming to my left. I thought they were stopping because they looked like they were kind of going pretty slow, but it was a slower street anyway. I start to go thinking that they're going to stop. They didn't need to stop, so they kept going. T-boned me right in my driver door. That's on me. It's 100% my fault. But I learned from that because now every fucking time I come to a flashing light, this shit happened when I was 17. I'm 36 now. By the way, yesterday was my birthday. Thank you all. Thank you all. I appreciate the love. I appreciate anybody who took time to say anything or wish a happy birthday. I appreciate you guys. I love you so much. Thank you so much for that. I don't feel a day over 40. But when I was 17, I got in this accident. It was 100% my fault. But to this day, we're talking how many carry the 2? 19 years later, I still, every single time I pull up to a flashing light, I double take, I check and see, I make sure that shit is, even if it's not a 4-way stop, I make sure what it is. If it's a 4-way stop, 2-way stop, whatever, not only do I make sure what it is, I'm looking both ways and I'm making sure there's no cars even close to me, even if they run the red light. Even if it's a 4-way stop for them and they run that bitch, I still stop and I'll wait there until I make sure that a car is coming to a stop. It's completely altered how I drive now. For more years now than I've even been alive. Or at that point. I was only 17 then. It's been 19 years since, if you catch what I'm saying. So you understand what I'm saying? Like, I didn't cry and complain and bitch. First off, it was my fault. But what I did do is I was forced to get a new vehicle. So I had to adapt there. And I had to just, hey, too bad. It was your fault. You fucked up. It's on you. You got to get a new vehicle. Too bad. And by the way, I slightly downgraded, in my opinion, from what I had to what I got. But it was on me. I had to do it. I had to make the best of it. I didn't cry and complain and try to make my situation change or make the accident go away or get my car back. It was totaled. It was gone. It was over and done with. And I moved on very quickly from that. Now, it sucked. I'm not going to act like I didn't care. But the point is, I think part of being versatile, too, is being able to move past events quickly. Like, I moved past that pretty quickly, but I learned from it, obviously, because it's changed the entire way that every time I approach a stop sign or a 4-way stop or anything like that, it's changed how I drive. So I've learned to adapt. I didn't just get in a car the next day and just drive right through right to the same thing and do the same mistake. Now, I hope that mistake never happens, but take your situation, anything that changes, anything that comes your way, the best thing you can do is learn to adapt. Move past it quickly. Don't dwell on shit. Don't be confused or panicky or worried or angry or bitter. Accept what's happened. Whether it sucks or it's great. Just accept the fact that things are different now. Like when I was 29, for instance, never even wanted to get married. I had already been engaged before. That shit didn't work out. I was kind of glad at that point that it didn't work out. And I was like, okay, well, this is it. I'm not worried about getting engaged. I'm not worried about dating. I'm not worried about any of that shit. I'm going to live my life, and whatever happens, happens. I've always kind of been that way. Whatever happens, whatever comes my way, comes my way. I just try to roll with it and adapt and deal with it and move on, and hopefully things are great, And I think it's honestly benefited me very, very well in life. But back to what I was saying, when I was 29, I had zero interest of ever getting married or having kids or anything at that point. I had already tried to be engaged. It didn't go good, and I was glad that I was out of it. I was very blessed to get out of that situation as smoothly as I did, and in the fashion that it took place. It was very nice. Then I thought to myself, well, I don't care if I ever get married. I don't care if I ever have kids. I don't want none of those things. I don't care, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward about a year and a half later, maybe it was like 28. I thought that way. About a year and a half later, I'm a buddy of mine was like, you should go on Plenty of Fish, or you should go on a dating app. And I've always, because when I was younger, 10 years before that, dating apps were literally like, you had to be a fucking loser to use a dating app. 10 years earlier than that. Like when I was 20, 21, dating apps were considered like that was what you used if you were a loser and you couldn't meet anyone and if you were just socially awkward. I don't want to say a loser, I guess, but that's basically how it was looked at by people my age at that time. But fast forward now, I'm 28, 29. I had a buddy come up to me and say, dude, you should just join Plenty of Fish, or you should join this, or you should. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing all that, dude. I'm not the dating app type, none of that, you know. And plus, at that point, I was like, I don't care. I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. I'm good, man. I'm good how I am. And then this woman then my friend talked me into it. He's like, no, you just make a profile and you just put it out there to the world and people will find you. You don't have to be active on there. You don't have to go search for people or nothing like that. And I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll do it. So I just made a profile, put some pictures up there, wrote a profile out or whatever, and then just sent it out to the world. And listen, you're going to have some good ones find you, and you're going to have some lagoon creatures find you. It's going to happen. So I took it with a grain of salt. I'd see some that I thought were cute, some that were, pretty, some that were, I thought some of them were attractive, but had shit personalities. Some of them had phenomenal personalities, but they weren't very attractive. And so you just roll with this, and you're just like, okay, well, it doesn't matter because I'm not taking this seriously anyway. And then all of a sudden, this one woman found me. And I was like, wow, she's really cute. I was like, she seems cool as fuck by her pictures. She's a sports fan. She does blah, blah, blah. And then she found me, and she seemed like she was interested. So I was like, fuck it. I was like, let me just talk to her. So I started talking to her. And mind you, she wasn't the first one that I had like talked to on there, but they're not all panning out is the best way I can put it, right? And so all of a sudden she's on there, and she seems cool. I talked to her for like almost a month before I even ever wanted to like meet up with her. Finally, we made a plan to like meet up. Mind you, at this point, I'm still like, I'm not getting married. I don't care. We're just going to meet up. Maybe we'll date a little bit or whatever, but I don't care if it's anything serious. Then all of a sudden I went on a first date with her, thought she was cool as fuck, wanted to hang out with her again. Then I hang out with her again, and then again, and then again. Next thing I know, we're dating. Next thing I know, a couple years pass, we're still together. A couple more years pass. Now we're engaged, we're getting married. Mind you, I said 4 or 5 years before this, never wanted to get married, never want to have kids. Now all of a sudden I find myself engaged, wanting to be engaged. Like, remember, I didn't want to be engaged after the last one. Now all of a sudden I find myself wanting to be engaged. Like, that's that part of my life was just coming to me, and I didn't ask for that. I didn't even want it when it first was coming. It wasn't my plan. That wasn't what I was looking for. But I was adapting because I found this girl that was awesome. She was pretty. I wanted to be with her, and I was like, sweet, this is changing my view. I wasn't set in stone in a certain way. I just adapted to what was going on. I was with her for a long time. I liked her. It was getting better and better and better. So then we got engaged. All of a sudden we get married. Next thing you know, we're talking about having kids. 2 years ago, I didn't even care about ever having kids. I didn't care if it ever happened. Now all of a sudden, fast forward 2 years, I have my daughter who's just over 9 months, 9.5 months, something like that. I love her more than anything. And I love my wife. I love our family. I love our house. I love our vehicles. I love our life. I love what we do. And 5 years ago, I wanted none of this shit. You know what I mean? Like, life will hit you in different ways. And the best thing listen, 5 years ago, I didn't want a wife or a kid. Now, the thing I want more than anything is to be the best husband and the best father I can possibly be. You understand? Like, life changes. You adapt. I always feel like you don't get married and have kids if you don't want to be a husband and a father. And if you do those things, if you do end up getting married and having kids and you don't want to be a husband or a father, you're going to be a shit husband and a shit father. And that's not good for the kids or the wife or husband or, if you're whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, if you're thrust into these situations, you need to adapt to your surroundings. I wasn't thrust. It wasn't like it was, it wasn't like it was just like thrown at me out of nowhere. I mean, it slowly built to this. But my point is, for the good portion of my life, I never wanted to be a father or a husband. And now that's all I care about being is the best husband and father I can be. And it's amazing that when life changes, I feel it's extremely important for you to adapt. Learn to be good at it, because listen, dude, if I never adapted to the whole fatherhood and husbandhood, I would be horrible at those things and my wife and my kid would suffer for it. But I adapted. I think it's incredibly important to learn to adapt to what your surroundings are, because they can change at a moment's notice. So learn to get good at the change. Learn to love the change. Instead of fighting it and trying to map out your life for yourself and plan your life out, enjoy the little things that change and just try to make the best out of them. Try to be the best you can be. Dude, I never thought about being a podcaster. I never thought about running my own business. I never thought about being an entrepreneur. I never thought about none of that shit 10 years ago, 5 years ago. But life changes. Things come your way that you aren't expecting, and it makes you want to be great. You understand? Like that, I've always cared about being the best at anything that's thrown in my way. I don't care about being the best at basketball or football, or if me and you are competing for the same thing, like for me to be the absolute best and just be better than you. I don't care about none of that shit. What I care about is being as great as I can possibly be. I don't give a fuck about beating you at shit. I don't give a fuck about being the best at whatever me and you are competing for. I don't care about that. I care about being the best that I can possibly be. Regardless how good you are. If that means I'm not as good as you, then I'm not as good as you. If it means I'm 10 times better than you, then I'm 10 times better than you. But I don't give a fuck about none of that stuff. I don't live to be better than people. I don't live for other people's approval. I don't live for other people's resentment or anger towards me. I don't live for validation from others. I live to be the best that I can possibly be. And when change hits you, I think there's not many people on earth that adapt better than I do, only because I value it so much. I put so much stock into it. I care so much about doing it. And when people are wired to want something so bad, where they want it worse than other people, where they want it more than other people, those are the ones that win. Those are the ones that are the best. And it doesn't mean that I'm better in life than you. It just means that I might be better at a specific thing. Or you might be better at a specific thing. I don't think... I've always hated when people are like, oh, he thinks he's better than this guy. No, nobody can really think that... If they're being honest with themselves, nobody can really think that they're better than anybody at everything. At life. Like, I feel like Michael Jordan's a better basketball player than me. But I feel like I'm a better podcaster than him. You know what I mean? Now, maybe he'll start a podcast tomorrow and he'll get 1 billion viewers, and then we'll be like, yeah, who's better now? You know? But I still don't even think your subscribers and viewers, because he's already popular. He could start a podcast tomorrow and it would have 1 million subscribers day one. That shit don't happen for a guy that spent his whole life just trying to understand life in the world, but then shitting away his career by working for other people in a bullshit bottom feeder factory for half his career. You know what I mean? Like, I think and I don't mean to toot my own horn. That's not what I'm here for, but I really do believe that I feel like I'm very good at adapting and being versatile because I put so much stock into it. I care so much about being good at that. Just like I care so much about logic and wisdom, understanding what's true, understanding how I can help others, how I can relate to people to give them advice to help them. Like, I care about that shit. So therefore, I feel like I am decent at that. Do I feel like I'm the best I'm ever going to be? No. I feel like I'm always getting better. But I would never sit up here and be like, oh, I'm better than you. At what, motherfucker? What are you better? Like, people that feel like they're better than others, I hope you mean better at a specific thing, because nobody is better than another person at life. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a weird term when people are like, oh, he thinks he's better than other people. Well, why? At what? Better at what? There's plenty of things. I'm sure right now, whoever's listening, you're better at something than me. I know you are. I know you're phenomenal at something. Right now, whoever's listening to this, you're better at something than almost everybody on earth. You just got to figure out what it is that you're better at than them. But by no means should you ever get on your high horse and have your chin up thinking you're better than people. Like, we got to understand this. We got to We have to get better about building confidence within people and making them understand that you don't need to act like you're better than everyone. You need to be confident in yourself to know, have self-awareness, and know what you're good at and what you're not good at. It's not an arrogance conversation. It's not a you're better than other people conversation. It's not like, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's like I'm really trying to hammer this idea home that you never should live with pride, like meaning you feel like you're great and other people suck. You should have the confidence to know, all right, I'm really good at certain things. What are they? Let me grasp this fully and then double down on doing this more often because I'm good at it. Not because you think you're better than other people, not because you think other people suck and you're so great at life. It's because you genuinely know yourself and you know that you're good at certain things and you want to just be good at that and keep going at that because it's a talent, it's a gift. We don't always control what we're good at. Sometimes you find out in life, I talked to my grandma, and sometimes you find out in life that you're good at things since you're little, and you don't even know why or how. You just are. And this is why I brought my grandma up in this. I talked to her over the weekend. Yesterday, on my birthday, I talked to her. And she always tells me this, like, when I talk to her, and I love her for it. I always appreciate when she says it, but I always feel kind of awkward because she gives me a lot of like not praise, but she gives me a lot of compliments and accolades and stuff. And she always says, Adam, me and your dad have always talked. We're always very impressed about that you listen. We're always impressed with your intelligence and your wisdom. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn. You can think I'm an idiot all you want. This is what she says. And they tell me this stuff all the time because I genuinely always have listened to them. But I tell my grandma and I tell my dad this. I say, I don't ever take any credit for that because I don't know, like, it's not like I actively chose to do those things when I was younger. I just did it. And I always give them the credit. I always say, well, grandma, you and my dad always taught me stuff and you made it interesting in a way where I wanted to learn. And they said, yeah, but you still have to listen. And you did that, and most kids don't. And I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why I listened when most kids, because all the kids in my family, the same age as me or whatever, we all have different paths. We all have different upbringing. We all listen to different things. And the one thing I think is different with me than most other people, and I told my grandma this, and it's not at all bragging or anything like that. I'm trying to observe what would make me different than others in that area. And I always try to figure it out. And I thought to myself, what's odd about this is it's ironic that I always try to figure out why she says that. Why did I listen? What about me was the deciding factor as to why I listened and some people don't, or why I learned and other people aren't learning. And I always try to figure out why this and why that and why that. And the answer is, that's why. And I know a lot of you are probably lost as fuck right now what I mean. Here's the answer. My entire life, without even knowing it, I've always just asked why about fucking everything. My honest answer about why it might be different for me, and it's nothing I can control. It's not brag worthy. It's not like I can sit here and toot my own horn about it because I don't fucking control this. It's DNA is all I can say. Or maybe somebody whispered something into my ear at an early age and it really hit home and I just lived with it. But I've always had an obsession with wisdom and logic. I've always had that obsession. I've always wanted to know why about everything. And that doesn't mean that I'm the best at that. It doesn't mean that I've always wanted it more than others or that I'm the greatest or nobody's ever done it better or anything like that. None of that shit is the point. The point is, it's just in me. To this day, I still dramatically care about why everything is the way it is. Why is Earth the way it is? Why is molecules and the atoms and the atmosphere the way it is? Why are we here? Why are humans do they act the way they do? Why do they have the characteristics they have? Why is 2019 like this? Why am I like this? Why am I here? Why are we all here? I've always asked why about everything, and the only way you can get real, honest answers is through logic. Because if logically something doesn't make an ounce of sense, then that can't be the answer. You know what I mean? All right, for instance, I can say all day that, if I jump, I'm going to come back down. I'm going to hit the ground. If I throw something up in the air, it's going to hit the ground. Logically, I didn't know why. What was the logic behind it? I knew that it would happen, but why does it happen? And then you go into scientific studies and you learn about gravity and you learn how gravity works on every object of mass and all this stuff. And then you can start to paint a picture and you can go, oh, well, logically, that's why I can only jump so high at my weight and with my molecular structure and my muscle mass and my, all this. And logically, that's why we don't jump and fly off the earth, is because gravity holds us down. Logically, we have, the reason we have it, the amount of gravity we have is because earth is the size that it is. And logically, all these things start to make sense. And I've always been incredibly fascinated with not only why things are the way they are, but logically what makes sense. Why? Logic has always been extraordinarily important to me, and I don't hear anybody ever talk about logic. They really don't. Nobody gives a fuck. I've always wanted to know not only why things are the way they are, I've always wanted to know what is, why it is, and logically what would make that make sense. Because if you know what makes sense, if you know things about the universe and about the world and about people and about times and about society, and you know logically what happens if I do this, what's going to happen here? If I do that, what's going to happen there? And when you know logic and wisdom and knowledge, and they all kind of tie in together, it paints this incredible picture about Earth and why we are the way we are. Why do people act the way they do? Why do they seek out certain things? Why do they need validation from others? Why do they do this? Why is this? Why? Everything is a big fucking question about why. And I think when we're young and we're trying to figure out life and we're young kids and we're like, Daddy, Mommy, why am I alive? Why am I a human being? Why am I this? And we ask all these questions. The problem is we'll ask one or two people and then we'll get an answer regardless if it's true or not. And then we'll just move on with life and forget about it. And me, it was never good enough. My dad will tell you this all day if you ask him. I would drive my fucking dad nuts with the questions I would ask, because every fucking question that he would answer, I would have another why. And I realized that this weekend on my 36th birthday, do you know, I had to go 36 fucking years without having an answer to this. And it's ironic to me because my whole life, all I've ever done is ask why. And yet at 36, I finally got an answer as to why I am the way that I am. It's fucking incredible. But I realize that when I'm explaining certain things to certain people, people would look at me and they'd be like, oh, you're 30-some-year-old factory worker. You can't possibly know shit. You're going to talk out of your ass about a lot. And you don't have a degree, so you can't possibly know anything. That's the logic they come up with. But here's the reality. Logically, I hate to keep using the word, but it makes sense. If I spend my entire life studying physics, but I never went to college, but all I've ever done is study physics, logically, you would think that I'd be pretty fucking good at it. If somebody spends 30 years studying physics, but they never step foot on a campus, does that mean that they can't possibly know what they're talking about? Because the reality is, up until universities were first invented, everybody that spoke about anything never had a degree. They never had a piece of paper that told other people they were smart. You just had to listen to them build a reputation over years of studying and research. And then when they were proven right over and over and over and over and over, you finally just listened to what they said and you just assumed they were right because they knew so much shit. And that's what I've been doing my entire life. It doesn't mean I know everything. I don't think that I know everything. I know I don't. But I think when it comes to Earth in life, in people, in society, and why, I think I excel greatly. I think I could teach a course on this, and it's not to brag. I'm not saying it like that. I'm just extraordinarily confident that the fact that I've studied all of these whys my whole fucking life, I don't need a degree to understand certain things. You don't need a degree in eating shit sandwiches to know that you're not going to like shit sandwiches. You understand what I mean? You don't need a degree. You don't need to go to a university or a fully, like a badass college to understand certain things. Like, it'd be like if I asked you right now to describe your family to me. I could study human beings my entire life, but I'm not going to know nearly as much about your family as you do. Now, you've never gone to school to study your family, but you infinitely know more than I ever will. Why? Because you have a lifetime of studying them, of being around them, of knowing them and their personalities. You're always going to know more than I would about your family. No matter how many fucking research papers I've ever done. You know what I mean? It's literally a study of life. And if you just pay attention and watch, you will understand all these things. You'll just understand things. And the reason why I've always been fascinated by adapting is because I've always had the mindset of, I don't care what comes my way in life. Whenever it gets here, I just want to be able to tackle it and be good at it. I've always had the obsession with wanting to be good at whatever gets thrown at me. And now that doesn't mean I'm asking for shit. I don't want bad shit. I don't want unexpected shit. But I just want to know that if change comes, one, I'm a creature of adventure. Like, I like when certain things come out of nowhere. Like when I first started podcasting, right? I had no real huge expectations. I have plans, I have goals and all that stuff, and I have an idea of what I want to accomplish. But when I got a phone call, or not a phone call, but a message, like a direct message, asking me to be interviewed on my first, like on somebody else's show, it was incredible. I didn't like cower away and be like, oh no, what am I going to do? How am I going to do? Should I act like this? Should I say these certain things? Should I do? No, when I first got the invite, I was like, absolutely, I'd love to. And then I went into it like a little bit nervous just because I had never been interviewed for anything before, I guess, or other than like for work and stuff. But I've never been interviewed about me as a person. You know what I mean? And so I didn't know what to expect, but I just went in kind of excited for what this has to offer. And it might have nothing to offer me. And it never did. It never like got me anything, but it was exciting and it was new and I was grateful to be a part of it. And it was awesome. Maybe I brought value to somebody else on that person's podcast. I don't know. I'm hoping that's the whole plan. But I had to learn to adapt. I'm not used to, like at the time, I wasn't used to being interviewed. I wasn't used to being asked about my life and how I got where I was. It was never a topic of discussion. Nobody ever asked me, like, it's not like when I got married or when I started dating my wife, it wasn't like she was like, hey, you are here. How did you get from birth to here? You know, nobody asks you that kind of shit. None of your friends care. None of your spouses care. No, your job, your employees, your employers, none of them give a fuck about what got you from A to B. They just care about, you know, what can they expect from you, basically. So the whole idea, though, is that it was new, it was change, and I had to adapt, and I love it. I love shit like that. Now, obviously, when something negative and depressing comes your way, it's not exciting and fun, but you need to learn, be confident in knowing you're the one that can keep your shit together when all of it's hitting the fan. When everything's going nuts around you, just be confident knowing that you can handle it and you're confident and you can adapt and be versatile and just, that's a great gift to have, people. And I can't really say much more about it. I mean, I've already been talking way longer than I need to. I actually need to get inside. I got to go and take my daughter to a little doctor's appointment real quick. So forgive me if I got to rush off the air like this, but guys, I just wanted to hammer home the idea about being versatile and adapting because you don't know what's going to happen in life. Life is going to change constantly. You don't know. Maybe you grew up in the country and now all of a sudden you need to move to New York City or LA for a big job and you don't want to turn down the job. This is your dream job. So you got to go out there. You have no idea how life in the city is going to be. You never lived like that. But now you need to. So instead of being scared and being like overwhelmed, Embrace the change, deal with the way your life is going now, and just try to be great at that. And just try to learn as much as you can. And be the one that doesn't panic when shit hits the fan. Because you see it in the movies all the time. There's 10 people, 9 of them are freaking the fuck out. One person has their shit together and they're like, listen, this is what needs to be done. And then that person becomes the leader. Be that leader. That's all the time I got, guys. I love you so much, and I thank you for listening. If you want to get a hold of me, you can do it through the Anchor app. You can leave me voice messages. I love to talk to people through there, so I'd love to chat with you, whether you agree, disagree, whatever. If you hate me, love me, I still want to talk to you, and we'll come somewhere in the middle. We will. And if you want to get a hold of me on Instagram, it's Really Rich Really Rich Podcast. On Twitter, it's Really Rich Adam. On LinkedIn, it's Adam Rich. Not too difficult with all that. So please find me. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to connect with everyone. And I love you guys. Thank you for listening. I'll see you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.